Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
You're muted.
What's up? Sorry about that. I thought I'd come for a little bit, then I've got to leave to go to a board meeting, so.
Well, then I can ask my question quickly. I was intrigued by, I wonder how many shows do not read the artist statement with the jury? Because you said something intriguing last week that without the artist statement, my pictures look like fuzzy photographs. And there are
Sorry.
shows, no, it was, there are shows that require me to apply in photography. Normally I
Right.
apply in digital art.
Digital.
And if they're not reading the artist statement, then do they really know what they're looking at?
So I don't know how many read it. Read it. I think the shows that jury digitally, online, I
Mhm.
imagine, I don't know this, but I imagine that the jurors spend time reading it, looking at the images more because it's on their own time, right? They can, which is one of my concerns about that kind of jurying. But anyway, so I imagine more likely there. I know there are some projected shows that read everything, every category. I know that in Art Fest case, I don't know what happened for the jury for 22 because I was not the executive director that year, so I don't know. I know prior to that, we always read the harder to understand categories. Like we read mixed media, we read photography, we read digital, we read jewelry, maybe something else, but we didn't read painting, we didn't read watercolor, we didn't read glass. Maybe they were more ceramic. I mean, they're more obvious. But we did read the ones like in your case that would be not problematic, but questions could be asked. We read those. And we did read only the first, I don't know, 10 seconds or so. Because otherwise, if you wrote a really long statement,
Oh, no.
right, then we're reading that person for 15, 20 seconds, and the other person who wrote a little one, reading short, the images are up a different amount of time, so it just isn't fair. So we tended to try to cut it like 10 seconds. And so then if you put all the fluffy stuff in the first 10 seconds, and
Yeah, I'm
right?
going to change that. I'm going to change that.
So that's all I know about it.
Okay. Well, it was interesting to me that I wonder if that's why I can't get into Winter Park.
I don't know. There's a lot of competition in Winter Park too.
Yes.
It's tough. They get 1,300, 1,200, something like that applications. So
Yeah,
I've given up on them.
Winter Park, don't they save the old images and to make sure what you're submitting is fresh?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
That's
you have
fine
to
with
ask
me.
Camille. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that for years.
Well, that's fair. I usually try and put in jury and for them, the usual, whatever their requirement is. I think it's no more than 2 years or maybe 3 years.
I can tell you, it does get really old seeing the same images, because even though it's not even though the jury's fresh every year, the rest of us watching it are like, God, I've seen these the last 10 years, So like, I'm hoping there's something else happening here. Not that we have a vote, it's just that,
Yeah, I've gotten
Back in
better
the-
in the last 10 years. So.
Back in the slide days, it was longer than 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Those were,
I mean, artists would be using the same images for 20 years or so.
oh yeah.
I've still got a lot of slides. I hate to toss them out, but I pay good money for them.
A different time.
I threw away all mine. I saved one of each.
Yeah. I remember the struggle to get them to try and do a standardized thing, One show wants the red dot at the top, one show wants them at the bottom, and
Oh, NAI finally got that as standard, didn't they?
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
bottom
I think
left-hand corner.
slides.
Yeah, I think they finally got that standard so we could all load the trays, but oh, that was a pain in the neck.
The big red dot in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah.
There used to be a bumper sticker.
A red dot.
Yeah, that we
Yeah.
put on the back left-hand corner of our bumper.
We're revealing how old we are, Larry.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any questions?
Why?
I guess I do if nobody else.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, hi, this is Morgan. I was part of the mock jury last week and it was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I had a question. Like when we do this application for jewelry, I'm a jeweler, it does ask for dimensions. And then it asks for pricing. We didn't cover that. Is that a factor in the judge's eyes if the prices are too high or too low or?
I'll let Larry do what he's doing, but I don't know if there's any of the other people on this call that were on the jury last week, the juror folks, whether Bonnie's here, because she'd be a really good person to answer that from a jewelry point of view. But again, just speaking for us, we don't read the price information. We don't look at the price information. We might look at dimensions, except we take a booth image so we know what the dimensions are, the scale is.
the meeting's on right now, so
But
Join if you
we don't, the price is irrelevant to us. Now, that may not be true for everybody. That's a question you'd want to ask the show itself, but whether they care about that. But in our case, we don't. It's strictly about the images with us.
I was just calling Barry, but I left a message. I was going to ask him to join the meeting.
Okay.
And
then-
Bonnie, if she didn't check her messages, will probably join at 4 o'clock
Or
because, oh,
There
here
she
she is.
is.
Yay.
there she is.
Hey, Bonnie.
Someone had a question, Bonnie, about whether the sizing and pricing information that we fill in on ZAP is looked at all in most juries.
I think she's not,
Specifically for jewelry.
She
I think
must be
she's not
muted.
quite here yet.
Oh, yeah, not quite.
I can ask another. I have a couple more questions if you don't mind me asking.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
So I was under the impression everything I submitted, I made sure is 100% handmade. Whereas I noticed other artists have ready-made chains, steel wire as attached to a pendant, that sort of thing. Is that a factor? Or do you look at things that are 100% handmade? Again, that's specifically for jewelry.
So is Bonnie still not quite here?
We
No.
lost her.
'Cause
Still-
she's the jewelry lady, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
But again, it's a good question for individual shows. If you depending on the level that you need to know that. In our case, we would just want to disclose that the chain was not made by you.
Okay.
And in a case like that, I would use the title of the piece. Add "and handmade chain" to the title,
If it was,
right?
right.
Because they might not read further than that.
Mhm.
Okay.
We can usually tell, but the show would be the one to say, does that matter to them? In Art Fest case, it does not, because you're actually selling the pendant or the part you made, and somebody could put it on their own chain or your chain or whatever. But that really depends on the show.
You know, I've been wanting to go to that next level yet. You like you covered better, higher end
Mhm.
shows, and I
Right.
always get waitlisted. And I took a lot from learning how to do my booth, because I thought I did a great booth. The pictures didn't do justice because there
Mhm.
was other elements in there that I thought it makes it look real, but then I have to make sure the chair isn't there. You know, the things that are practical are out of the picture. I didn't realize that. So I got that. But as far as the jewelry, specifically jewelry, and I know you said Bonnie would be the right person to ask. I don't know if I have the wrong jewelry.
Jewelry is so hard.
Mm.
The competition is so hard. You know, we take not even 10%,
Wow.
maybe a little over 10% of
Wow.
what applies, who
Okay.
applies. And there are lots of really good jewelers on our wait list, and there are lots of really good jewelers that don't get accepted at all because there's so many. So that's tough. So
Yeah.
Larry, I've heard you talk before, right before, about jewelry booth shots and how to help
That's all right.
when you're totally straight on, you just see the cases, you don't see the
Mhm.
jewelry, right? Because sometimes the jewelry is flat in the case. And I think I've seen you write before about getting up a little bit on a step stool, not
Well,
distort, but just a little bit of
I mean,
for that.
I consider the perfect height for booth picture is 54, 55, 56 inches, 4.5 feet. It's basically eye level.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um,
Even then, might you suggest, when I was looking at some of those jewelry pictures we were on, that I know they display them flat, some of them in the case when they're at the show. What would you think if the guidance was to tip them a little bit, you know, bring that
sure.
up a little bit so that when we're looking at the case, it doesn't look like you stood them up on a stand, right? But it looks like you can at least see kind of in the case that the jewelry in the case has something to do with the jewelry on the images.
Well, I always say that everything in the booth needs to face the camera.
Mhm.
So there's no confusion or misunderstanding.
And in some cases, the jewelry is not actually facing a camera because it's
Well, in the booth itself at a show, it may not be.
right.
But for the picture, you should try as hard, you know, as much as you can to have it face the camera.
Yeah. So the other thing you could do about your, Morgan, about your images, I don't know, I know a lot of shows who offer this, not everyone, I know we do, that you can send us your images by email, either before or as you're applying, and we will comment about presentation or size, or, you know, the presentation things like we were in the session last week. We won't say your jewelry is not right for this show, or we won't do anything about the artwork. We would probably say to Allison, had she done that and her artist statement didn't talk about not being out of focus, right? That's intentional. We might say you might want to mention that. I mean, we might say that, but we wouldn't say, why do you take out of focus pictures? Or, you know, we wouldn't put it that way because that's not our place to talk about the artwork. So you might try that if there's shows that are frustrating to you and see what they say. Not everybody provides that feedback. We'll provide that feedback.
And then if I'm doing, I don't mean to take over the whole conversation. Tell me when I need to stop. But if I'm doing a brooch, do you want to see the back and the front on the same image? Because I only can have 4 images. Is that okay? Like have the one picture be split in 2 that shows the back, how it operates.
Is that relevant to the work?
Yes, like because it's a brooch, so you can't see how it's a brooch and a necklace.
Oh,
Do you have more than one piece like that?
I do.
Because what I suggest is only having one jury image showing both,
Hmm.
and the other three just showing the front.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
Because otherwise it becomes visual overload.
mhm.
Yes, I understand.
Mm,
Okay.
mhm.
Good point. Thank you.
And again, don't you think, Larry, that in the title, it could say
Convertible.
brooch convertible, yeah, right? A
Yeah.
Brooch pendant combo, or some kind of,
Yeah, do they
Quick.
see, do the jurors see the titles? Well, you don't, projection jury,
we
they don't.
project, they don't.
Right. But they read the artist statement out loud.
We would be on jewelry, right? But we wouldn't be reading the title of the image. The only way they would see that, I think it shows up in Jury Buddy in the screen where they're scoring, but it's really small type. I don't know that how much it would help in a projected jury.
Why don't you push away and let me try to get the computer going here.
Here we go.
There's Bonnie again. Bonnie's here twice.
Oh, I'm on here twice now?
Yeah,
Yep.
the other one has hair.
So we know which one is the real one right now. Hair and funny fuzzy things. Red fuzzy things.
Trying for a long time.
But we couldn't hear you on the other one.
Well, that's because I'm not actually connected on the other one.
I think it's gone now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
There she is.
Oh, hair's growing.
It
Check
is.
that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were we when I so rudely interrupted?
Talking about jewelry.
Oh,
And I was saying we need to ask Bonnie that because she knows about jewelry, but I'll give my opinion. So
okay.
I
What
think
was
it
the-
was Morgan who was asking those questions.
Work on this.
Morgan, go ahead, ask again.
You're
Gotta un-
muted.
Unmute.
I thought I did. There we go. I wondered if the jury see the pricing and dimensions of each piece in jewelry and if it's a factor.
They can see the price and the sizing. Speaking for myself, I rarely look at the price because I don't really care. Unless it's something where I have a question. Just a minute, I'm trying to get myself reorganized. I'm trying to think of an example, but
I can think of an example, Bonnie. I don't know if the jury would look necessarily, but the staff would. Let's say when we're getting down to final choices, because there's a whole bunch of you all tied at the cutoff score, right? It's not clear always. So particularly in jewelry. If we were to see something that looked particularly potentially a buy sell thing or something, if we had some suspicion about that, we might look at the price. Because then, fair or not, things that are too inexpensive might not be made by you,
Mhm.
you know? So maybe in that sense, when the staff is looking at, we should check on the, I don't call it honesty, you know, that piece, we might look. I don't know that any juror looks at that and makes a
okay.
judgment call on that.
Better get rid of that.
Now, let me take this. I will say that I will look sometimes when what the artist statement is saying
Got a
doesn't
lot in there.
really,
You're gonna go around your,
doesn't make sense. And then you find out that something that you're figuring is a couple $100 is they're selling for 4,500.
Mm.
That raises all kinds of
Mhm.
suspicions, questions. You don't want jurors to have questions.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Now, how does that relate to what you're doing?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, I get waitlisted in so many of these higher end shows. And I was trying to figure out, is it my pricing? The dimensions are so weird because I don't have a depth. So I kind of make up a number. So is
Oh.
it that, is that a factor? Because I'm not correct in my depths of
Mhm.
chain, Is it
No.
the name of, so I was trying to figure out what is it?
You're
that
giving
makes
us too much credit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Don't worry about your pricing.
okay,
I want to see what the actual price is, and then we go from there.
okay.
Okay. And I don't get too geeked about the sizes because, hey guys, it's a ring.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
The opportunities for size are slim.
Okay, thank you. My other question was, uh, one being 100% handmade, like a handmade chain and a pendant. Is there a plus versus using ready-made chain or steel wire as a chain on a pendant?
Well, I will give you imaginary brownie points for making your chain.
Okay,
Some things look better on a commercial chain.
okay,
Most pieces look better on a handmade chain.
okay.
So you put the
But
chain
why?
on, you put the chain on that you think works best for that piece.
Okay. Makes sense, thank
I
you.
will not as a juror ding you if you're using non-handmade chains. I use both. And I
Okay.
realized that in my jury images that we showed yesterday, both of them, or three of them, were commercial chains. But that's what looks best.
Yes. Yes, okay. Thank you. Makes sense.
Anything else?
I do have more, but I'm going to let other people speak first and see if there's time.
I guess I have a couple questions, if that's okay. This is Jenna. Can you guys hear me?
Not,
Barely.
Okay, can you hear me now?
A little better.
A little
Can you
better?
speak louder
Oh, no.
or turn the volume up
I
or
can
something?
yell. Let me try my volume. I'm sorry. How about now? Did that help?
It's
Apparently not.
still very low.
Can I just type the questions to you quick?
Well, or get closer to the microphone.
It's like in my mouth.
What? I know. Sorry, I got
Sure, type the question.
Let somebody else go. I'll hop back
Oh.
on a different.
there
phone.
you go.
Well,
Now
you got louder there.
I got okay. I don't know what happened, but okay. So I included my shortest artist statement because Zap always, some shows limit it to 100 words. Or 100 characters, I can't remember. But so is the artist statement that I used was just artist uses vibrant acrylic paint on canvas to create hyper-realistic landscapes with moving skies. Is that enough? Or do you guys feel like I need to beef that up?
My opinion is it's plenty.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
me too.
Bonnie,
Yeah.
yeah,
You could probably drop the word artist.
Okay. All All right.
Get 5 more characters.
6 actually.
6,
Yeah, yeah.
7 if you include the space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Then I can add a different word. All right, awesome. And then
Yeah,
my other question for you guys. So you guys had a lot of comments on the having all of your images be the same size, which I have a hard time with because I do a lot of landscape paintings, which are obviously long, but then I'm trying to do some smaller artwork that is vertical instead of horizontal. Am I better off to display everything that is the same size and exclude some of the smaller stuff and just include the big landscapes so all of my images are the same size then?
Well-
I can say I tend to display all the verticals because I do more verticals than horizontals. But if I do put a horizontal in, it's like with if a show is requesting 3 images, I'll put a vertical on each side and then a horizontal in the middle, just to kind of balance it out.
the different size images doesn't bother me because I understand the proportion and the ZAP requirements.
I think those of us who project, which is the minority of shows, just my opinion, it's more comfortable to look at all the same size. So if you have artwork that allows that to happen,
I do.
that would be great. I think that would be great, but other people may think other things. Because the difference in like in Allison's, it shows in her booth that she does both directions. I mean, it doesn't affect the
As
quality
long
of
as
her
they're
work.
included
So
in the booth shot, then I'm okay to do all one size and just include the multiple sizes in the booth shot.
Yeah,
in my opinion, yes.
my opinion too.
Okay.
And projected, it really makes a difference in projected how it looks in that room. It's very different than digital.
What's better, digital or projection?
In my opinion, projected.
Yeah, because that's what you use.
Yeah, so I mean, we have always been a projected show.
No,
so-
no.
Although I was talking to Zap earlier today about something else, and I did bring up that the Larry's layout and everything. And Marika went and actually found the YouTube, so she was going to go look at the layout. And I said to her, I said, you know, if that was the layout versus the way it's happening now, I'd think pretty seriously about going to online because it looks like projected. It gives you that same feel that projected does. So that's just my opinion. There's lots of opinions about projected versus digital or online.
I do have a question on that layout. The next time I do it, should I make the booth picture larger?
Yes.
Yeah.
But a comment on the digital versus projected. Projected will always be better because, as Sharon said, you can see them in a group. And that's so important. And that's the one thing that I do not like about monitor jurying.
Another thing about monitored, I'm sorry, Barry.
Because they're one at a time.
Yes.
Well,
I think the
hopefully
other-
we're going to change that.
Yeah.
I had a good chat. I did my part, so we'll see if I can keep helping. But yeah, she was off to
Yeah.
look at it, and who knows if they have the manpower and blah, blah, blah to do that. But
And especially if you're using color, that some people's monitors can be not quite up to snuff as far as showing the colors.
mhm.
The nice,
Well,
the nice
Okay.
thing about that is that everyone's colors. If one person,
That's true.
one color is off, everybody's are off.
I think that's important to remember on the averages, right, Bonnie, is that that's the case for color. It's also the case for if you have one juror who consistently scores really low or really high, but they're consistent about it. They're not
Yeah.
random about it. They're consistent. Then it all works out in the wash. I mean, it
Yep.
comes out in the averages, and so it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's weird, but it doesn't really matter because it'll all come out. Now, so it's always our speech. If you're gonna score really low or really high, really strong or really weak, soft, whatever, don't change it. Just stay that way, because then it works out in the averages. The problem comes when people change how they're jurying and the averages get messed up.
I've got a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Okay. As long as we're talking about ZAP, I just wanted a point of clarification, and I talked to Bonnie about this briefly, but I'm having trouble clarifying what my long strands are. And the description that we put in with each photo, I put in a description of what that is. However, when I hit the button that says preview as juror, all that comes up, instead of the description, the artist statement comes up for every picture. So there's no description
Ah.
showing.
Hmm.
Bonnie has
Yeah.
told me that as jurors, you actually do see a description, correct?
Yeah, you just push the little I button and gives you all the,
Yeah, well, when I push the I button, all that comes up is the artist statement for every picture.
okay,
No
that's.
description is coming up.
sure.
I think
Yeah.
that goes along with the sizing and everything.
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, all
if
that
it's a
information comes
monitor-
up. Yeah, that information comes up, but what's missing is the description. And instead of the description, the artist statement shows up.
Well, when we do monitor jurying, that's
Uh-huh.
where we
get
all the information.
So you do
Is-
actually see the description of each photo.
Yes.
When you
So-
did when you uploaded your artwork photograph, did you
Yeah.
type in all the descriptive for that? specific?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I'm frustrated that it doesn't show up.
Huh.
Okay, have you told Zap about it?
I did, and they said, well, that's the way we program it. And I'm like, well, then what's the point of a description? So I didn't even know that the jurors would see that.
Yes, we do.
Okay, now, second question then along those lines. I'm imagining you probably don't have time to read that, or do you read them? Do they come up automatically, or do you have to push the I button to see?
Have to push the I button.
Okay, so it's a pretty good chance that jurors won't bother to look at the description then, right? Because you
If
just
it's-
don't have time.
If it's something that we don't understand or
Uh-huh.
have any kind of a question about, or frankly, are just curious about, we
Mhm.
push the button. The
Well,
nice
then-
thing with the monitor jurying
Uh-huh.
is that you have all the time you need.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I tend to push that button a lot.
I'm glad to hear that, because that leads to my last question. I don't want to take up everybody else's time, so I'll be brief, but I'm having a heck of a time with my verticals, especially my strands. But even Larry, you had thought that my totem was a strand too, because I do long totems that could be 4, 5, 6 feet long also, that are hinged basically. But I don't have any really good way to show those in a, a square photo on that without them turning into tiny dots. And Larry suggested doing those in a coil, which I certainly could do for the strands anyway. But then, when people look at my booth, you guys said the same thing. You're very confused at what are those hanging things. So I haven't figured out a way to be able to communicate that. And I could do part of that in the artist statement. But if it's only 100 characters, I'm out of luck there too. So I don't know how to do that. And I'm sure other people have long things. They must have this issue too, but I haven't seen anybody solve that problem yet.
What about, I'm just taking over this chat here. What about
Hi, Bonnie.
if you did a split screen on that image? One showing that it's a long strand and showing a close-up of 2 or 3 of the leaves. In the
I have done that in the past, but jurors are still confused with when they see the strands in my booth. So, I was hoping that the description would show, and apparently it does to the jurors, and that might help, but I don't know that they'll take the time to do that. I recently got waitlisted for 2 shows because, and the comment was that they they said that my products that I showed in my pictures weren't in the booth, and 3 out of 4 of them actually were in the booth, but they didn't understand what they were looking at. You know, and the ornaments look like large earrings, as you said too, so. But yet I don't want to put a picture of an ornament in the picture, but that's part of my booth. So I have to have that in the booth shot.
On your ornaments, I think I was when they said it looked like big earrings.
Yeah, they're leaves.
I wonder
Somebody-
whether
Second one off here.
Wait, everybody mute that's not talking.
I wonder if you could, in that booth shot, tip that ornament rack a little bit
Uh-huh,
so that the camera sees it kind of not head on, but a little bit on an angle. So that,
Uh-huh.
so that one can tell,
yeah.
oh,
that they're
those are ornaments. They're
Yeah.
not, or maybe a few less of them so that they stand out. Because as I
Uh-huh.
recall, they were fairly close together. So that
Yeah.
would contribute to the, what I call big earring look.
It
So
does.
if they were a little bit spread out and
Yeah.
a little bit cocked, then I think it would be easier to see, oh, those are ornaments. That's glass ornament goes with all of this other work. This is jewelry on the side, right?
Okay. That's a good suggestion, and I'll definitely look at doing that, but I'm still back at trying to figure out how to show my long things. And then Barry had made a comment about how my things look too dissimilar. They're all glass, they're all enamel glass, but I understand what he's talking about because I went back and looked at every other jury image, and everybody's doing all paintings or all clothing or all jewelry, and here I am, I'm doing different things, but it's all with glass. And I don't know that there's a lot I can do to change that. Larry, you okay? So anyway, yeah, and that's a concern for me too. How big a deal is that?
It can be a big deal.
Yeah, that's tough.
And when I was switching, it was all jewelry, but I went from all 14 karat gold to mixed metals. Totally different look. I had a really hard time as I transitioned over, but I was going from one to the other.
It almost sounds like in order to do retail shows, I have to pick one item and that's all I can show in my booth.
Well, not
And that's all I
necessarily.
can sell.
Not necessarily. When I said that, it's about style. It's about your style,
Uh-huh.
how you look at things, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing the same thing or doing something different. It should be you. It should, I guess that comes from developing that. You do it for a long time. Your work looks like you.
Yeah. I am actually merging into more abstract painting. So, 2 of the items were abstracts and 2 of them were the older stuff I've been doing also, but it still sells very well. So I keep doing it.
Now I know. Yeah. Now I remember what
Yeah, I was the last one.
You're the very last one?
I was the very last one. Lucky me.
Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah.
Unless it's a real jury and people are tired and they want to go home and you don't get the fair shake,
So it's sounding like I really do need to just choose one item and that's all I sell at retail shows.
Well, no, I don't think that,
Okay.
listen, I don't think that matters. You show your best work to get in the show. And then, if you have some abstract and some representational, and it would show it would still show your style. It wouldn't be any different. It wouldn't matter. I don't think there might be a few shows where they're like looking at you through a magnifying glass, but you can easily explain that if they say something to you. You can just say, well, this is my style. This is what I do. I mean, there's a lot of things you can say. You can say, well, this is a study for color study for the other thing. I mean, there's a lot of things you could say to get around that.
Okay. All right. I
At least
won't
that's
worry
what I
about
do.
that then. Yeah.
Okay, the other thing, what I would do is do 2 applications, one in each style. And then if they both get in, bingo.
Mhm.
can have both in your booth. If they don't,
Then I
Then-
have to only do one or the other.
exactly.
Yeah, but chances
I don't-
are applying with two styles in a not that applied to medium. She's not going to get in with two different applications.
Yeah,
I think it's a
Right.
waste of money.
Why
Well,
not?
my second step would be if you did two applications, partly because that's a test of what works well as
mm-hmm,
your chances, but my next step would be if you got in one of them, I would call the show and talk to them about it
uh-huh,
and say, I do whatever totems or whatever thing that got in.
Uh-huh.
I also do blah, blah. I was in there with two applications. Can we talk about this?
mm-hmm. Okay,
We
I-
would likely say, let's look at those again and say, okay, it's still your work and everything. I'm
and
not
it's
saying
still
we
the
would,
same medium.
but likely because it's a reasonable argument. It would depend on a bunch of facts,
Yeah.
but
It's still the same medium. It's just that
Right.
part of it's 2D abstract art and part of it's 3D glass.
it's not like you're trying to bring
lens.
your actual large earrings and sell them with your other glass, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not that. It's because I think I said this in the session. I think it's interesting how, to some degree, this process stifles creativity in artists
Mhm.
and makes Bonnie think twice about how does she switch from gold to mixed metal, right?
yeah, and it's making me think twice about giving up half my product line.
And
you
so
know.
how do we keep the integrity of the process
Uh-huh.
and not stifle the artist? It's become more and more a dilemma to me in the last few years, how to do that. But I can't speak for all directors, right? I mean, everybody has different opinion, so that's why
So to
talking
wrap,
to them is the
so to
best thing.
wrap this, so to wrap this up, did anybody have any suggestions for how to clarify to jurors about my long stuff?
I like Bonnie's suggestion, split that screen.
Yeah, okay, so just split the screen and then I'm gonna have to mention something in the artist statement because that seems to be the only thing that's consistently showing.
Yes.
So,
And
okay,
she did that with one of the images.
I did that with the totem. Yeah, I
Yeah.
split the screen, but Larry mentioned that I shouldn't have text in there. But that makes it harder to explain what we're looking at then. Yeah,
Excuse me, is there any way in a jury image to show scale?
yeah, that's a good
Put an
question.
egg.
A quarter,
No,
but I wouldn't do that.
no,
I wouldn't put anything that's distracting.
the title.
The
Question, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I was just wondering, like with when she has all her strands, and I apologize if I'm not using the right word, that you have they were so many of them together at the back. What if she had them maybe 4 or 5 on the left of the booth, some more spread out in the back, and then so they'd be shown, but they aren't so grouped together? How would the jurors feel about that?
That
was-
is an excellent idea.
Larry had suggested that too.
Yeah. And actually, another way to do it is to put a single strand and then two pieces above and below each other, then another single strand, and go around your whole booth like that.
Uh-huh, or 2 strands between each or something like that. Yeah, so it's more integrated then.
The other
Okay.
thing I want to point out, I agree with Sharon as far as if you do 2 applications and one gets in and the other does not, call the show.
Mhm.
Because almost always in the shows that I've run, in the shows that I've juried, they will let you bring both.
Uh-huh.
Unless you got a 0 on one and a 7.
Oh. I
But generally
would hope not.
speaking,
Or
Yeah.
if it's 2 different mediums and you're trying to get them into one booth. Most shows are pretty strict about that, that if we have
No, this
artists
is
who
all the
apply
same
in,
stuff.
right,
Yeah,
we have artists who apply in mixed media and in painting or drawing, and they are distinctly different different work. And then want to combine the two in one booth. And most shows I know are pretty strict on the one medium per booth. If you want to show both works, you got in both, you got to have two booths. I mean,
So mixed
most
media
everybody knows
and
that way.
so mixed media and 2D painting would be not allowed probably.
In the same tent?
Yeah,
Probably not.
even if
In
it's
most
all
people's
glass.
cases.
Yeah,
Unless,
all right.
unless you couldn't tell them apart.
Yeah, which, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
and assuming
right.
people enforce, and I mean, you know,
I've taken up enough time, everybody. Thank you very much for your input.
Excuse me, there is I have to look up the name. She was just in Fort Worth. She does ceramics and paintings. And if you look at her whole
Mm.
booth, it is completely cohesive. Does anyone know who I'm talking about by any chance? The ceramics are very like black, gray, neutral colors, as is the painting, and the painting would be abstract. And it's a really good example. I mean, I don't know if she applies in 2 categories. I'm guessing yes. She was just at Fort Worth. So I'm actually going to look online because it's a really good example of they're different mediums, but like, you know, the same person created that. And I'm gonna
and sometimes you see artists like that, and that the pieces are made to go together.
Next question.
She's looking.
Yeah, and quick question. So I was just, I was curious how much of like the interaction between the jurors, you know, the banter back and forth, how much is that true to like how it actually goes in juries in general? You know, is there that much? Oh, I like this. Well, I don't, and you know, like how much of that dialogue is there normally?
It depends
Yeah.
upon the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
and it would have to
Generally-
be a projection jury.
Generally
Because-
speaking, there
Right.
is no
Right.
talking during the jury process.
Right.
They may go through it a second time. I know a bunch of juries that go through it a second time once we've all voted or scored, I'm sorry, and show us kind of an overall, this is in, this is out, and is there anything we need to discuss? There's really very rarely anything that needs a discussion.
And my experience is that most projected juries are pretty strict about the no talking, because you don't want one artist who has, or one juror who has a strong voice or personality influencing the others. And so most of the projected guys are pretty strict about that. There are some, like Bonnie said, go back through and it might have some discussion. And there are some, I think, that are the yes, no, maybe juries that when they get
Yeah.
down to the last round may
Yeah.
have some discussion, but not
St.
in the
Louis.
first couple.
Yeah, St. Louis is like that when it gets to the end and you have, you know, you have X amount and the ones that don't make the cut are on the wait list, and you can get in. Actually, I like the way it's done in St. Louis, because if you have one advocate, somebody that likes your work, and 4 or 5 that don't, that person gets in based on, you know, what that person says, and I like that.
Excuse me, I put the website, it's Erica Eman, and I put the website in the link. And I saw at Fort Worth, she was in 2 categories, in ceramics and in painting. And if you look at her work, there you just see it. It all goes together. But obviously she has to apply in 2 categories.
And that must be within their rules and how they, you know, Fort Worth's a very respectable show, so I imagine that's in their rules and their explanation of how people can exhibit.
And I suppose it would vary with every show, but I've seen her like at Cherry Creek and I guess not that many places recently because we've only just begun.
Yeah, I remember one year at Armonk, somebody had paintings with some ceramics sitting on a table in the middle of their booth, and they gave them an award for mixed media.
Oh, wow. Well, go figure.
Oh,
Larry, I have a question.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if you can answer it, but so regarding the jurors and regarding the statements that we are to write, I know that we should avoid getting too technical, but what is the expectation of the comprehension for the jurors? So, like, I remember, you know, I did watch the whole thing, and encaustics came up, and Bonnie knew what it was, but nobody else knew what encaustics was. And I'm not at all a painter or anything, and I know what it is. So I just wonder, and chasing and repousé, which is a very classic term, it's not trying to be technical when you're saying chasing and repousé. If you were to write out what it was, it would take up all your characters. So, I mean, you know, how much vernacular is reasonable versus what do we have to spell out for the jurors? I mean, the jurors are supposed to be experts in a certain degree.
Oh, well, experts within their own mind.
That's right.
That was, I didn't expect to be reading the artist statements until we started. And I ran into a lot of words I didn't understand.
Right.
Yeah, but you got the general gist of it.
Well, yeah, but I'm an expert in photography, but not all the other mediums.
But can't the jurors just look it up, just Google it? I mean,
Depends on what depends on their interest. If they're jurying from home, not in a projection jury.
well, but then somebody could say, what does chasing or repousé mean?
Right.
And it was seen as some pretentious term, but it's not. It's this classic term. Or you could say, you know, I hammer a relief in the metal on one side and, you know, vice versa on the other side, but then you use a lot of language, but it's a classic term. A lot of people, the reason why you never see chasing and repousé jury into a show is because most people don't do it because it's so labor intensive. So, but I mean, Bonnie knew what it was, but it's like,
Is that something you could put in the description, Allison?
but you'd still have to describe what chasing a repousé is then.
Right, but I'm thinking the
You know?
description, I don't think you're limited in characters or anything in that, so it might be easier to do it that way. But then you have to hope the juror is going to click on that I button.
Right.
Right. Well, I don't know. I think the jurors there should be a juror who knows what it is. And the same with encaustics.
I agree.
And that's where I think we all run into problems. You know, there's never going to be a juror for every single medium. You know, so I guess we're out of luck. You know?
Or every technique within a certain medium.
Yeah. I've got an off the wall question. I've watched on video a couple of open juries, and I've been able to recognize, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. How often does that happen? I mean, those of you who have juried, do you recognize who the person is?
Sure.
Not as often as you'd think.
But it does happen.
Yes. And as I think I said yesterday, doesn't matter if they are my best friend, they are going to get my honest jury score.
I think it's inevitable that it would happen. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was a juror for a show, and it was really nice that before we all came together to do the jury process, they sent us a link to preview the work and read the artist statements on our own time. So as I encountered artist statements with particular words that I may or may not understand, I took the time to look them up, and it was an education. So I thought that was having an opportunity to preview those artist statements was valuable.
That's great.
That is, but you were also interested to look them up, so that's
I was. and
wonderful.
I'm probably not the typical juror in that I do have exposure to other mediums and vocabulary and techniques and materials. And I know not everybody does, but it is interesting. It's like, how do you pick a good juror?
Right, right.
Well, it was interesting. I was on a jury recently where one of the jurors was a glass collector. Not art glass, but old, they called it, I think, studio glass.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, just like my grandma had,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And I was real curious what were their credentials for being able to jury art glass?
They were
just
collect-
The
And-
committee needed somebody and it was the last minute. And their
How
next
did-
door neighbor went on vacation, so they couldn't, so they said, well, let's get this person.
How did that person do?
I don't know, it was a blind jury.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, every juror is going to have their likes and dislikes.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you're an artist and you have some reasonable expectation that you kind of know how other people's work is done, or you've seen it, or as opposed to somebody who's not in the field and just go, then it's totally I don't like, not understanding the degree of difficulty. I mean, when you people are talking about the artist statement, and that's about telling you how it's done so that you'll be impressed. I mean, I'm not sure what the reason is. I lost my train of thought. I was firing pots today.
I have to bring up the subject of the white background.
Yeah.
There are shows that require a white background. They're mostly craft fairs as opposed to craft and fine art fairs. So these are shows that wouldn't have photography or paintings, that type of thing. So ACC, Smithsonian, Philadelphia Museum of Art, ACE, which is what, American Craft Exposition. Those shows, I don't know if they all require, but they suggest a white background.
Oh, I like that.
And anyway, also Carla Fox said it was okay to say this. I applied to her show with a dark background. It was not gradient, it was dark. And between her daughter who was doing the graphics and her, and they realized the white background really is better for my work. And so, so I sent her pictures with a white background to use for promotion after getting into that show. So anyway, I know it's always the contention, but I wonder if any juror comes into the jury room with a bias that this is what's acceptable and good. We were talking about, our artists stifled because they have to fit into this mold. Well, we might not want a Technicolor background if somebody's work. I don't know. The point is, we're all coming to this with our bias, and as jurors, we have to try and put that aside and just be judges. I personally, I hear everyone say that the white blows out the picture, and I've been in jury rooms, and my eyes are very sensitive to light, and the picture does not seem blown out. So in any case, magazine editors like it too, but that's a whole different story.
I like the white background, especially Allison, your work is very dark. And so it does nothing but highlight the little things that we wouldn't see if it was against a dark background.
I like this.
Pardon?
I like this. I like what I'm hearing. I've always needed, I've always needed a gradient change background, and but myself, I can photograph on a white background, so I'd much rather have that.
I would try it. I
I've
don't
been
know,
reluctant.
the gradient, one of the problems that happens, in my opinion, with the gradient is that it becomes too dark. And I
Yes,
have friends that swear by a certain photographer and the way they photograph things, they're too dark. I can't use them for my show. I can't use them for advertising.
Yeah, I agree. I know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who it is too.
I have to say though, the jeweler that had I think it was a braided wire, her stuff was on the black and it just really made her jewelry pop. So I think it would I think as artists, it'd be really nice to just have the option of whatever shows our art better is the black or the white.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
agree, it'd be nice not to have to do the gradients.
And
I think
that's up to you. You can
Yeah.
use any color, any kind of background you want. And
Well,
trust me, I am not judging you. As a juror, I'm not judging you on your background. Now that we can take backgrounds out,
Yeah.
for advertising,
Totally.
it's fine.
Yeah, and we can always send pictures without backgrounds for if they want to use it for advertising too. But yeah, but
do you know how many?
Yeah.
Do you know how many people answer the call when you send out an email saying, "Okay, I need images with either a white background or no background so that I can advertise you"?
Nobody.
3.
Wow. That's insane.
Yes. I always send those things in. And
yeah.
Well,
and I
maybe
always
now that
hear-
there's better apps for that to drop out backgrounds, you'll probably start getting more of those. And I
hope
want to
so.
mention the Photo Room app is really excellent for that too. But it's gotten much easier to drop out those backgrounds. Even a year ago, I would have had a problem doing that. So that might
all I
change.
know is, people have said to me on many occasion, "Thank you so much. You make it so easy," because it's a white background.
Mhm.
And we want to make it easy. This is separate from jury images, obviously, but we want to make it easy for editors to publish our work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Free advertising.
You bet.
I like being on the poster
There you go.
or the postcard.
Yep. Make it easy.
Who would turn that down? Or who would not, given the opportunity to do that, who would not send something in that maybe get picked?
How many do you want? What size? What color? I'll send you anything.
That's right.
So Barry, when I ask you for a piece with a white background, does that
Yeah.
mean that you'll send it to me?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
In fact, I'll send from now on, all my images are going to be on white background unless Larry shoots if I get to Pennsylvania and have Larry shoot the work. And then he'll do his professional job. But if I'm doing it, it's going to be on a white background and I'm loving it because I can do it myself. I can even do it with my iPhone, which is not professional, but but hey, it's better than the cameras were 10 years ago.
Some of the best jury photos that I've seen recently have come off iPhones.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Well, are there any other jury questions? Oh,
I do have one.
Julia.
Okay.
Has one. Or whoever was talking.
Well, Julia just typed the question.
Well, she's unmuted now.
Try it.
Julia? Julia.
Well, her question is, if you get into a show one year, should you use different photos the next year?
Ideally, switch out some of them, if not all. There's one jeweler that I have to see that piece of broken pottery wrapped up one more time, I may spit. So just remember that just because the jury is different every year, we will be on other juries. So we will see what you, like for me, I might see what you applied to Krasl with, or I don't know, Longs Park, whatever, Ann Arbor.
Julia also asked a question about earrings on cards.
Well, if that's how you display them, and that's what works, I have no problem with it. I would not make them a focal point in your booth. And oh, nice, very.
This is what happens when they cut it, they cut it out off your image and put it on the postcard.
What show?
Tennessee Craft.
Very nice.
I don't think it helped my sales though.
Oh.
Somebody asked about the booth picture. The booth pictures always last.
Oh, so I have well, I'm not sure if it's a question or not. So my banners I have a banner that's two feet wide by 6 feet long, and there's an image up top, and it's a scroll, it's text, it's my artist statement. I like having my artist statement. Some shows require it. It keeps customers in the booth, so I have it, but it's photoshopped out so it looks like plain white. And the same, I have a big banner in the back of my booth with a huge image or 2 images or whatever the case may be, and then my name, which is photoshopped out. So it looks like there's just the pictures of jewelry. And I don't think I can presume that the jurors know I photoshopped that out, but I can't blur the text because that would be distracting.
I think you'd be surprised. We have seen almost everything in order to get the names out of the booths.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine.
Well, I mean, what I don't know is if there's any, presumption. And then if there's a picture of me that also was photoshopped out of the booth, because if you can't have your name, you probably can't have a picture of yourself, I'm presuming.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, then the banners get a little sparse because there's nothing on them except a couple of images.
But couldn't you take the booth shot before you put up the name and the banners?
Well, but the banners are nice. There's big pictures of jewelry, and
Yeah.
you can't see into the cases with the jewelry, but on the banner you could see my work. So,
Okay.
It's a predicament that
Good point.
there may not be a solution to.
Well, you could have posters made or banners made that don't have words on it, but have more pictures of jewelry on it.
Right. And I mean, you mean have that just for my jury shot?
Well, you might find that it'll work. Put it on the sidewall.
Along
those
but then, well, I know in the past I've had too many images. Jurors didn't like that I had too many images. So
It's a no-win. You're gonna make some people happy and others are not.
Just use a black background.
I wish I could just say, name and text photoshopped out, but there's no mechanism for that.
Well, Larry took my pictures out of a booth shot from Ann Arbor and then dropped some pictures in because the original booth shot it looked so empty, you know, with these gray walls and yeah, did not look good.
Right.
So you have to have something in there.
Well, that's
Right,
a
well-
perfect segue to a question I had. Do you want to finish?
Nope.
Whoever
Yeah,
was
go-
talking?
I think we
Okay.
are.
All right.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do, if I applied to any more shows this year and I wanted to do a new booth image with just one medium, say my 2D medium, is it acceptable or is it too obvious if I have if I have Larry just drop in my images on a blank booth,
Please don't do that.
Photoshop them in? No?
Please.
Okay. I
Yeah, don't
wondered.
do that.
Larry and I differ on that. But
Yeah,
you can tell, and it makes a juror, well, it makes this juror really question
Mm-hmm.
what's going
Okay.
on.
So I'd
but your
have to
work-
set up a whole new booth again.
Yeah,
Ugh,
your work
I'm
is
sorry.
has too much detail to be able to just drop individual pieces of art into a booth.
Well, I'm talking about all the 2D art, Larry. Just the wall art. So it wouldn't be any of the 3D stuff.
I'd have to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be worth your while to,
Set up another booth,
I'm
Ugh.
sorry, because I know it's a pain.
especially in Wisconsin.
I'm in Michigan. I totally
Yeah, you know,
understand.
yeah.
and neither of you are in the UP, so
No,
Oh,
It-
yeah. It's
where
so
it's
fun that
really
we have to,
cold.
it's so fun we have to get our booth shots together basically in the worst time of the year for it.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, wait a
So,
minute. You can take the shot in the summertime at a show.
We're too
If
busy
I
in the
ran a show,
summertime.
if I ran a show, I would require the booth shot to be shot at a show.
That would be great, but then you've got all these shows that want a gallery style booth. So, you know, you can't have a regular working booth shot. So,
Depends on the jurors.
I did
Yeah.
say if I had a show,
right.
I
Well-
ran a show, that would be the way I would do it.
I take a booth shot at a show and I
Yeah.
take the chairs out and like the mess of papers and things, but
Yeah.
I'm zooming
I-
with Trudy on Saturday. If you want to join us.
All right, well, I'm zooming it too with Kate.
Okay, no, this is A11.
Okay.
I just muted you, Paula.
And say, who was that?
right, we know your schedule now. But yeah, my booth shot is always photographed at a show, and depending on the light, sometimes we do it later in the day, like once the show is over. There's certain shows that are slow shows, and I just like wipe everything down, clean everything up. I probably remove the mirror that's on the pedestal and remove the chairs. But that's really where, I mean, it's a real booth shot. So.
Yeah, I do mine in the morning before the show.
Mhm.
It's the most pristine, especially the first
Right.
day, you know.
Yeah.
I always did mine at a show, but
Yeah.
I had this thing about chairs. So I always left my chair in. I didn't want anyone to think that I'm trying to kid them by making them think that I didn't sit down all day.
I have a question on a very different vent. We do wood turning. Some people are going to see that as craft, not art. Your thoughts?
Depends on the work.
It's a lifetime conversation. A lot of people don't see jewelry as art either. They see it as your hawkables. And, you know, so, I mean, I say, you know, it's craft and art, like personally.
I don't want to have this discussion.
Yeah.
That was used up 40 years ago. Craft versus, it's a college thing, craft versus art. you know?
The wood turnings, what you make is functional. They're not decorative. And functional could put it in with a craft, but that doesn't stop you from applying to art shows with it.
Depends on what country you're in. In
If we
Japan,
make a peppermill and it's in the shape of a lighthouse and it's made with a lot of different types of wood, and yet it has a functional base, but it's really cool to look at. It does, as Larry said, really fit into both categories, but in some cases we've been excluded because, oh, that's craft.
it
Well-
depends.
That's going to be a fact of life.
It depends. It's an object, it's a functional object, but functional objects can rise to the level of being a sculpture, small sculpture. So that's, that's that's what you have to ask yourself. Does it, does it fit that?
I think often it's in the eye of the beholder also,
See, I don't,
go ahead.
that always upsets me when people, not that you're saying that, but that because there are libraries full of what is of books telling you what is art, and there's you can go to school for it, you can get a master's degree in art. I mean, there is a defining thing that defines it. It isn't like what you like. It isn't what somebody likes, and it's in the eye of the beholder.
But I think it's very murky. I mean, here's the thing. What if somebody's a really great designer, but they have somebody else make their item?
I hope I don't do shows. I hope I don't do shows with those people in my.
But you probably
do.
do. You probably do.
You do.
So, it's such a murky area.
Great. Then I'm going to have my work made in Japan, or not Japan, Thailand.
Well, no, it would have to be made in this country, but
how would you know? You wouldn't know. I'm telling you, you wouldn't know.
the point is that a lot of shows that we do, the artist is supposed to make their work. If they have an assistant, that's usually fine. But they're not really supposed to have a factory of 8 people or 10 people or 15 people. It's a very, very small market, and there's nothing wrong with those products. It's just a different market, and our market is so little. But there's a lot of, the word handmade is very ambiguous.
Can I add something here for our wood turner here? I recently asked a question on Larry's site about, I was talking about the different products that I have. And one of the gals that got back to me, I don't recall her name right. Maybe she's in this group, but anyway, she does wood with resin, and she showed me her 4 images, and I'm pretty sure 2 of those images were art pieces and 2 were functional. And so that would be the direction I would go as a wood turner, is if you do have art pieces, include those to help get you into the art shows. So one of them was a beautiful wood blocks with colored resin that is clearly not a functional item. It's definitely an art item. So is there any way that you could do that? Do you have art pieces, or is it just purely functional? Yes,
We do have art pieces.
Listen.
It seems that then some people do not see consistency in the product.
Yeah, that's what you're going to run into.
That'd be the same issue I have, but as long as it's all wood.
There's functional ceramic artists that are in art shows. So
first of all, if I made functional work, I would want it to, my goal is to have it rise to the level of being a work of art. Now, in a country that's more sophisticated than the United States, like Japan, they understand that. This is not a discussion. It's there, you know, it's people know, they know functional work can be, you know, can rise to that level. I'll never separate the two. On the other hand, what's his name? Asked, could the word turning be art? What's his name? I'm having a moment, but it's a friend of mine, and he wins a lot of awards, and he gets into all the best shows, and he's a wood turner, and his work is great, and he's a really good guy. And who am I talking about?
Matthew?
Yes, Matthew Atala. Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah, thank you. There you go. That's artwork. That's art.
Yes.
That's, in fact, that actually illustrates what I'm saying, that a functional thing can rise to that level. Although I don't think his work is too nice to use, to put something in it or whatever.
I wouldn't use it.
No, I wouldn't either. Mar the surface, you know, yeah.
Shirley, did you get your booth questions answered?
Yes, I did. My question I had earlier when I listened to the YouTube thing, my statement is what I needed to work on. And I like the comment that one of you guys said that I needed to use the word, let me see what it was. My keyword I need to use is my campus is my product. I mean, what I start with, my clothing is my canvas, and I work on that. So using that canvas was going to be my keyword to get in.
Excellent.
And like I said, I did do a short one because most of Zaps only give you 200 characters. So I gave you the shortest one. So I'm going to try to work on improving that and getting the word canvas in there to show that what I do, I work on it's not a mass produced item. It is an item that's designed for artists to work on, like a canvas is.
Right.
So I'm trying to get that. And thank you for telling me about emailing people about being on a wait list, because I got in the shows.
Excellent.
So I'm happy about that.
Excellent.
So now I'm cramming to get more stuff done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got, like I said, the statement is my key. So I'm going to work on that.
Good. You know, you can always bring it to Tuesday afternoons to get our opinions on it.
Okay, I'll work on that. But I'm pretty
Is that
much
okay, Larry?
This year.
Absolutely.
Well, talking about statements, can I ask a question?
Sure.
We talked about making it short, not too technical. So I wrote down that I fuse 18 karat gold to argentium silver and add gemstones using techniques of fusing, forging, and forming to fabricate one-of-a-kind jewelry. And then I use, which I do in most of my pieces, I use a red ruby, and I wrote it in there saying, a red ruby is incorporated to remind us of our inner strength. Is that too much?
Yes.
Yes.
You don't need to
last-
talk about the inner
Take out the
strength.
ruby.
Right.
Okay. I thought maybe it makes it a little different, but no.
No.
The question is, does it matter if jurors know what argentium silver is or not?
Yes.
Would it be better for her to just say sterling silver?
Oh, I was on the ruby.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
on both, yes.
Yes,
So the
sterling
ruby is
silver,
taken.
no ruby.
See, I was trying to kind of stand out a little bit, thinking if I use argentium, so there you go, it's a little bit different.
But they don't know what it
I
is.
don't have a problem with that, even though I don't know what it is.
Well, that's just it. Too many people don't know what it is, and too many people are using it and talking about it.
Okay. So do you think I should say bimetal versus fusing 18 karat gold to silver?
No, fusing 18 karat gold to silver.
That's what I should keep.
I agree.
I think so.
Okay. And then take out the ruby.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
But should she take out the argentium silver and just say sterling?
I
What
would
do you
say
guys-
sterling. No
Yeah.
reason.
I don't think it matters.
Argentium just adds another question mark
It does.
for those who don't know.
Okay.
Do I have to know?
No.
Well, but you didn't, but the chasing and repoussé, that was an issue. So if
Not with
if-
me.
if argentium is sterling silver anyway, then there's less question of jurors who mostly are not jewelers.
Okay. Yeah, that I understand. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good point. Thank you.
Sorry.
So do you use in your statements, should I say I do that or put the word I out? Does that make it personal or does that make it?
Tenseness.
Yeah.
Well, okay, ask that again.
So in my artist statement, should I say I fuse 18 karat gold to sterling silver or should I say 18 karat gold is fused to silver?
Right, take
Do
out
it.
the I.
No. I
Yes.
want to know that she's doing it.
Well, but this is, she's
don't think it
applying to shows
matters.
where she is doing it. So anything that makes it personal is irrelevant.
It makes a big
No,
difference from
I
a
disagree.
jeweler's
No,
standpoint.
it just wastes characters in a limited
That's it.
character
Okay,
artist.
that's
thing.
Totally
another thing.
disagree.
That's another issue. If you have 100 characters and you have to fit in what you're saying, like what I do is I'll eliminate that, the I, and I'll eliminate whatever I have to get it to fit it in. If it's 200 characters, then I have more leeway. I'll add something, but that's the only reason. I don't think it matters one way or the other, whether you say I or whatever. And I is personal, and I like that. I want to hear the personal.
It makes a difference, Barry, in this case for a jeweler, because you can buy 18 karat already fused to sterling. It's very different than if you fuse the 18 karat to the sterling yourself.
What
It's
about all
different.
made by hand?
That tells me nothing.
Well, you
How
could,
about one of a kind?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What if you say one of a kind?
I do.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't
No.
matter? Just
Well, I'd go with the jeweler on the jury.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You want credit for those things so not everyone will know that fusing 18 karat to sterling is more difficult than buying it. You would think they would. But those that do will be more impressed with the fact that you're making it yourself. I used to fuse 24 karat to sterling with a mouth held blowtorch. And I always put that in because that was hard. And I wanted to make sure people knew that it wasn't kumbu. So.
Not that they'd know what that is.
No.
That's
Made me feel better.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
This Sherry, I've got a quick question. I'm fairly new to getting into the more higher end art shows, so bear with me. I did the stained glass and then I had my frame in the jurying that I hung my displays on or my product on. I was the one that had the bucket, and I get that those are not
I
Those,
remember those.
yeah. Well, and I did it because that was working for me and the shows I was getting in. Those were really to hold my frame for display. So I'm working on that. My question is, I see like Larry behind you, you've got like a half wall in your picture, whatever that is.
It's called the French wall.
A French wall. Okay. So if I would get something like that to put to the back, because I do have to have at my booth either access in the booth or behind, and I don't know what's allowed in the higher end shows, that I can pack my glass into. I am not going to let somebody walk out the booth with a 3-dimensional stained glass and have it get bumped and broken while they leave. So that's what I was wondering, if I should get something like that and then put my shelving unit behind it so I can still have my packaging.
Every show is different in how in the space that they give you. A lot of shows give you room behind your booth, but you need to be prepared for any situation. You know, if they give you extra room, use it.
Be prepared to fit everything within 10 by 10.
Right.
And then be pleasantly surprised if you can spread out a little to the back, not to the front. You don't want to block your neighbors, but to the back.
And then one other quick question, and then I'll let others, because everybody's got good questions. I did notice I think it was Laurel that did the split photo of her glass, which I was wondering, how do jurors take that? Because like a lot of my glass, I do layering. So I was thinking if I would take a front shot of it and then have a side shot showing how I layer it, would that be beneficial?
I would take some and try it. Ask friends. Ask other artists what they think. Can't hurt. And if they like it, then try it for jurying.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure there were other comments. Barry, Larry.
Huh?
Wake up, Barry.
No, I just had to go see why the dog was barking. Any other questions?
Well, I've got one for Larry. Not so much for the whole jury, but Larry, I was wondering if you were thinking of doing this. This might be an annual thing, you know, doing this mock jury. And if so, I was wondering if you did it next year, would it be possible to do it like in January or February?
Well, yes, and actually I was thinking about doing it semi-annually before the big closing dates, like in August, because the Florida shows start closing in September. And then maybe in January or February for the spring closing dates. So we'll see what happens. Sharon McAllister wants me to do it again.
I do too.
Yeah, that'd be great. And yeah, I'm in Colorado, and most of my shows, I do mostly just the summer shows here. So for the most part, I'm all wrapped up with my applications by end of March. So this is great info though. It'd be fabulous to have, before I do those submissions.
Here's an interesting story. Cindy Lyric, who used to run the St. Louis Art Fair, she actually figured out that artists that attended the mock jury and then made changes to their presentation based on the feedback they got stood a better chance of getting into the actual show. And she provided the statistics for it.
I believe that. This has been great. Best money ever spent.
Yeah.
Gee, I'll have to raise the price next time. No, just kidding.
No, it is. It's a great opportunity. I got a chance. I did this a few years ago with Cherry Creek does this in November. They do a mock jury and I participated one time in that, and it's
Right.
always insightful. So, but this is great, but didn't get to have this kind of interaction, by any means. So it's really a nice treat. So thanks.
Keep in mind that we're not judging the work. It's just, we're judging the images and the blue
presentation.
shot.
Oh, very
Which is
good point.
Which is a lot different, because to be honest, I would have rejected, if I was doing a show, I would have rejected a number of people that showed their images. Now, they're doing it, so I'm assuming that, they're beginners, or they're haven't done this for a long time. So, they're putting themselves out there without, gaining the sophistication that one would need, but and it definitely helps. You definitely want to have the best images and the best booth shot, but it still comes down to the work, and you got to keep getting better. I hear from people, they go, I like as a kind of a joke, I put my, Cherry Creek laminates your artist statement with your picture, and you can put it on the wall. And I kind of do that. I kind of put it up on shows because I like format. But it's kind of a joke for me, because I'm, in some ways I'm saying, hey, I do Cherry Creek, but anyway, people say to me, oh, you do Cherry Creek. I stopped applying. I did it, I applied 10 years in a row and didn't get in. And I don't stop that, when they say I stopped applying, and I don't say anything, but reality is you have to keep applying. And if you don't get in, get better.
Okay, wait.
I always say,
wait. Let me take a question here. Joyce, you have a question? She's muted. Joyce?
No, yeah, it's Joyce. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to say I really did learn a lot from the mock jury session. A couple of the pictures I had put up was actually chosen in Orange County Laguna Gallery online exhibit. So a couple of pictures that I put on there was from there, and I noticed somebody said that I was a picture taker, but that's fine. But I've learned quite a bit from listening, and that I'm going to use when I apply for other art shows. So thank you, Larry, for doing this. And I'm glad I got a chance to see it and be a part of it.
Every jury is different. So every show is different. So it's kind of a general thing that we're doing, but it isn't necessarily relevant to a specific show, I think.
Which I understand, because, you had all different kinds of crafts and arts and stuff there. So, but that's still, even listening to people talk about how they're displaying their jewelry and stuff, that I also learned from. So I'm really grateful to you guys.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have one more real quick. Sorry. I was wondering on, like, you all are talking about waitlisting and things like that. So if you get that notification, they're just like, maybe if someone bows out, you might get in. Do any of the shows, or just depending on who they are, do they let you know how you scored at all? So you would know, oh, crumb, I did, I was on the bottom of the list, but maybe I'm right close. I was just wondering if they ever do that.
Occasionally.
Not that I know of.
I don't know.
I'll tell you where you are on the waiting list.
Yeah,
I'll give you a number. If you're
Brookside gives you a number. Winter Park gives you a number.
But
And
you
then
should
some
also
shows-
contact them and let them know you're interested continuously.
But some shows like Park City, absolutely not. Do not contact them. I deliberated over this and I read it a million times. I had other people read it. So it just depends on each show, really.
Yeah, well, you don't want to
some-
piss them off.
No, you definitely don't.
Cherry Creek they offered, the jury scores from the 2 rounds, but said, don't email us about any other details. Like, this is what we're giving you and don't ask us for more. So
That's generous of them.
The original director of Cherry Creek, you used to be able to call up and get your score and find out how far you were from the wait list or on the wait list. But that was 25 years ago.
Terry Adams.
Yep, no, Charney.
Oh, Dick Charney.
I think it just takes a lot of time. I think, if I recall, are in the high desert, you could pay extra to get feedback.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of labor. And, I have a feeling they don't want to share jury scores only because it's just extra work for them. That would be my
St.
guess.
Louis doesn't have a problem with it. They publish all 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And it's great because you can go there and you can see.
Thank you.
And you can say, how'd that person get in?
Mhm. Yeah,
This
they
is supposed to
obviously
be such a great show. What are they doing here?
they obviously have a system in place. But somebody had to administer that system in the first place. So, I mean, it's, nice for those who apply, but other shows, if they don't have any, somebody needs to mute themselves. I'm hearing the news. Anyway.
No news here.
It's not good news if you live in New York.
Why?
What does that mean?
They had a shooting on the subway in Brooklyn this morning.
Actually, wasn't it last night?
I don't know. I thought it was this morning.
Maybe it was this
Rush
morning.
hour this morning.
Mm.
Set off a smoke grenade and then shot into the crowded subway car.
Oh my God. Scary.
But this
Okay,
is going to
good.
be this is going to be recorded and it's going to be on YouTube. This has been a great session.
I hope everybody got as
Good
much as
question.
they could out of this.
Yeah.
Very enlightening.
Good.
You always learn something new. Always.
Yep. Doesn't have to be your medium.
That's right.
Your kind of show. It's just really interesting. Excuse me, really
is.
interesting what you can learn.
Yeah, it seems like the weak spot for almost everybody was either the booth picture or the artist statement.
Or
I
both.
found that very interesting. The fact that we focus so much on both of those two, which says that people have their individual images pretty down pat.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. Because it used to be that's what we talked about the most.
Right.
And a lot of what we talk about is nitpicking. But this business requires it.
Well, you want to have the best look all the way around to have the best chance of getting in.
Yeah.
You don't want to have great work and have bad images and then get rejected. And there's a lot of people that are just as good as any of us, and that's the edge. The best images and the best look, that's the edge. That's the difference. And plus, making friends with the director always helps.
Oh, you big kiss up.
Well, I don't really
How
kiss
good
up.
are friends?
It's different than kissing up. I'm not really a fan of that.
So
All
are
right.
we done?
That's what I was going to ask.
I am done in.
Yes, thank you very much, Bonnie.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Really, really enjoyed this. Thank you all so much.
Very informative.
Thank you.
When did it start?
3:30.
Oh, okay. So I didn't miss much. I was firing pots. I got in
I
and I
called
didn't miss.
you.
I know, but I didn't have my phone with me. So, and I couldn't be there till I was there anyway. So it's amazing. I want to here, look at this. I wonder if you can see this. See this? See how dull this is? That's what it looks like when it's 15 degrees out and you have to fire the pots. This is what it looks like when it's 40 degrees and above. All the color, it's so different.
You've said that before, but it's interesting to actually see it.
Yeah. Well, it's, I go to Florida, all this dull work, and it was embarrassing because I like to have I like to have my best work.
I will leave you with garage sale art here, Barry.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. It was wonderful.
All right, Bonnie.
Bye.
Listen, move it to March or April. It'd be great.
No, last Saturday in February.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when we can get the location.
Okay. All right. That's, yeah.
And because it used to go against Baltimore, and I was trying to keep myself from doing Baltimore because I just wasn't making enough money, but I
Yeah.
loved doing the show. And
Yeah.
so we picked
Yeah.
we picked Baltimore weekend.
It's such a shame, isn't it, that it used to be so great and now it's like it's almost too expensive to do.
Yep.
Unless you're
But there's 400 jewelers at that show.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
this time I'm really leaving.
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you, Bonnie.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Larry.
Bye.
All right.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.